राधमाधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 6, entitled The Yadu Dynasty Retires to Prabhas, Text 17. तत्तत्थुषश्च जगतश्च भवानधीशो यन्माययोत्थ गुणविक्रिय उपनीतान् अर्थान् जुषन् अपि ऋषिकपतेन लिप्तो ये अन्य स्वतः परिहृतात् अपि बिभ्यति स्म। तत्तस्तुतश्च जगतश्च भवान् अधीशो यन्माययोत्थ गुणविक्रिय उपनीतान् अर्थाञ्जुषन् अपि ऋषिकपतेन लिप्तो ये अन्ये स्वतः परिहृतादपि बिभ्यति स्म तत्तस्तुतश्च जगतश्च भवान् अधीशो यन्माययोत्थगुणविक्रिय उपनीतान् अर्थाञ्जुषनपि ऋषिकपतेन लिप्तो ये अन्ये स्वतः परिहृतात् अपि बिभ्यति स्म. तत्तत्तुतश्च जगतश्च भवान् अधीश यत्मायया उत्थगुणविक्रियया उत्पनीतान् अर्थाञ्जुषनपि हृषिकपतेन लिप्तः ये अन्ये स्वतः परिहृतात् अपि बिभ्यति स्म. Okay, word to word translation. Tat, therefore, tastushaha, of everything stationary, cha, and jagataha, mobile, cha, as well, bhavan, you are, adhishaha, the ultimate controller, yat, because, mayaya, by material nature, uttha, raised, guna, of nature's modes, vikriyaya, by the transformation, that is, by the activity of the sense organs of the living being, upanitan, gathered together, arthan, the sense objects, jushan, engaging with, api, even though, rishikapate, O master of everyone's senses, naliptaha, you are never touched, ye, those who, anye, others, swataha, on their own strength, parirhitat, on account of objects of sense gratification, api, even, bibhyati, they fear, sma, indeed. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Lord, you are the supreme creator of this universe and the ultimate controller of all moving and non-moving living entities. You are Rishikesha, the supreme controller of all sensory activity, and thus you never become contaminated or entangled in the course of your supervision of the infinite sensory activities within the material creation. On the other hand, other living entities, even yogis and philosophers, are disturbed and frightened simply by remembering the material objects that they have supposedly renounced in their pursuit of enlightenment. Purport. The Supreme Lord Krishna is within the heart of every conditioned soul and guides the living entity in the pursuit and experience of sense gratification. The disappointing result of such activities gradually convinces the conditioned soul to reject material life and surrender again to the Lord within his heart. Lord Krishna is never affected by the futile attempts of the living entities to enjoy his illusory energy. For the personality of Godhead, there is no possibility of fear or disturbance because nothing is ultimately separate from him. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this verse, text number 17, here one of the sages and the demigods, they are praising Lord Shri Krishna because now Lord Krishna is about to complete his divine pastimes on the earthly planet. And the demigods and the sages have come assembled there to say, to give send off to the Supreme Lord. And before Lord wind up his pastime, they are glorifying and expressing their gratitude for whatever Lord Krishna has done for them. So this verse is very philosophical and very much important for a practitioner like us, because here it is said that the Lord is never affected by material entanglement, whereas even the most advanced seeker get afraid and disturbed by the object of sense gratification they have tried to renounce. Generally, people say that, oh, Krishna has also done so many activities here, which seemingly appears that Krishna was very much attached to sense gratification. Just like his performing of Ras Leela, his killing of demons, as well as the Mahabharata war, which is sometimes termed in the name of Krishna, that he could have avoided it, but he himself was entangled into those warly activities. And that's why people sometimes say that even Krishna has to suffer the reaction of his own sin by the curse of Gandhari, by which all the Yadu dynasty was vanished because of her curse. So the curse of Gandhari was considered to be the reaction of Krishna's sinful activities. These are the things which people think that Krishna is also subjected to material conditioning. But here the demigods are saying that even though Krishna may do so many material activities, or it appears to be a material activities, but Krishna is never affected by all these activities. Rather, Krishna is always transcendental to all the material activities. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Name karpani limpatti, name karma phale spriha. Anybody who understands that Krishna is not affected by the material activities, neither the karma phala or the reactions of activities affect the Supreme Lord, he is truly a person in knowledge. So, just by understanding that the Krishna cannot be affected by all these material things, one becomes liberated immediately. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha. So one who understands the tattvataha, the purpose of his appearance and his karma or his activities in this material world, one who understands it with tattvata, philosophically, in depth, he also doesn't take birth again in this material world. He immediately gets liberated. Whereas we see people in this world perform so many yogic exercises, yogic tapasyas, they perform so many rules and regulation, formalities to get liberated from this material entanglement. They give up so many sense gratificatory objects. They stay in the Himalayas, away from all sense gratification. But as we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, it is like Kunjara Sauchavat. Like for some time you are separated from sense gratification, so you may think that I am now I have become aloof from any influence of sense gratification. But as soon as the opportunity arises, immediately the desire for sense gratification again sprouts up. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying such kind of atonement or such kind of purificatory process by performing tapasya in secluded place is not sufficient. It is just like bathing of an elephant who may bathe for some time in the water, but after coming out of the water, he again put dust on his body. So what is the use of such kind of uh, austerities and performances and staying away from sense gratification if it is not going to help you to relieve from any kind of sensual engagements? It is not possible. So here the demigods are saying that people who consider that the Supreme Lord is affected by material conditioning, they are fools. Demigods are saying. Because they are saying that even the great personalities who has given up all kind of sense gratification to attain liberation, they sometimes or many times they get affected by sensual enjoyments. Whereas Krishna, even though he appeared to be taking part in material activities, he is not affected by any such reactions. So that is the difference between the Lord and the living entity. A living entity maybe get affected by all these things, whereas Supreme Lord, he is always transcendental to this thing. So as we can see in this context, that it is very philosophical and practical point for us also to understand that while practicing bhakti, we may think by staying away from sense gratificatory objects or sense enjoyment, we will be relieved from the attraction or attachment to those objects. It is not possible. By just giving up anything, it is not possible to give up the attachment also. One may externally give up, but in the mind he may start thinking about it. Just like in Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Indriyani Sayyamya Ya Asate Manasa Smaran. Means one who is trying to control his senses, but at the same time he is thinking about the sense object in his mind. Lord Krishna says, Mithyacharasa uchyate. Such a person is a mithyachari. One person has asked me that Krishna is ready to forgive all kind of sin. But how it is possible that Krishna can forgive all kind of sin? There must be something that Krishna is completely against of, and he may not forgive that also. So I said, yes, it is true that Krishna is ready to forgive all kind of sinful activities. But one thing he doesn't forgive, that is mithyachara, or what you say to mithyachara in pretendance. He doesn't like pretendance. If you accept that I have problems with me, if you accept that I am attached, and if you accept that I am sinful person, I am not able to give up my sense desire, Krishna is ready to even forgive that. But you pretend to be something which you are not. By showing off that wearing saffron clothes and inside you are thinking about the sense gratificatory objects, Krishna says such kind of person is a mithyachari, a pretender. And Krishna doesn't like such kind of pretenders. At one point he is even ready to forgive all sinners, but he will not forgive the pretender. That is what Krishna is against of. Krishna expects us to be honest. So he says in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, an ordinary street sweeper is better than a charlatan sage who is cheating the people. What is the meaning of charlatan sage? That is, becoming a sadhu, one is cheating the common people in the name of religiosity. So Krishna says that, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of Bhagavad Gita that a simple street sweeper who is performing the sweeping activity at the street, he is much better because he is honest with his activity. But whereas those who pretend himself that I am such a great exalted saint, but inside he is always thinking of the sense gratificatory objects, such a person is always condemnable. So that's why we have to be very careful in terms of understanding this. So how is it? Because we have to give up the desire for sense gratification. And it is sometimes said that one one should stay away from the objects of sense gratification. But still, that is not sufficient. Though it is helpful, but it is not sufficient. It is said that out of sight, out of mind. Means if you are not, if the sense objects is not coming in front of your sight, you will not think of it in your mind, mostly. But as soon as the opportunity arises, immediately the material desires creeps in. So what is the best way of controlling the sense desire, the desire for sense gratification? Here in this verse, it is said that, just a second, you are Rishikesha, the supreme controller of all sensory activities. So here the word is used as Rishikesha. Just by taking shelter of Krishna, one is able to give up all kind of sensual attachment. It is not possible for a living entity to give up sensual attachment. It's not possible. Because living entity is so insignificant in front of Maya that he on his own power cannot give up sense gratification. It is not possible. Only if a living entity takes shelter of Krishna and requests Krishna to help him, only then he is able to overcome a desire for sense gratification. And how he does that? He does by serving Krishna with his senses. Once a very one of the Prabhupada disciple was in Mayapur Yatra, and they were visiting the different holy places in Mayapur, in and around Mayapur, Navdeep Dham. So at that time there was a very senior and old disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was serving in one matha nearby Mayapur, one of the holy places around Navdeep. So he was very old. He was so old that he was not able to properly lift up the buckets of prasadam. But still he was serving people, serving the devotees who are coming to that matha to take darshan of that holy place. So he was the cook. He was the, you can say that not many devotees were there at that time to take care of that matha. Practically that old man or the disciple of Bhaktisaraj Thakur was alone taking care of that matha, practically alone, because there were few people but as good as nothing like that. But still he was taking care of the whole matha. And this disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was very curious to know, because he was thinking that how it is possible that a person can be able to give up his whole life in serving at one place. How is it possible? So he was just thinking like that, because for him to stay at one place and to serve lifelong at one place, for him it is so difficult. So he was surprised to see this disciple of Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur is serving in this place for more than 60 years of his life. He was there at the matha from his very youth, and for 60 years he was serving there. So he was very curious to know that how is it that you can able to serve here. So that disciple of Bhakti Saraswati Thakur said, "Oh, I didn't knew that it was 60 years now. It was as if like it was only few months back I have joined this matha." So 60 years passed and he didn't even realize that 60 years has passed, because he was engaged so much in serving in the temple, in the matha, taking care of the deities, temple worships and everything, that he hardly bothered about how his age is passing. He never saw himself in the mirror. He said that I never saw myself in the mirror except for applying tilaka. And he said that too we have a mirror of a very small thing, very small mirror, in which we can see only our tilaka, that's all. So we never saw our shaven head, whether my hairs has grown black or white. So never saw that. So he said that we don't even realize that how the time passed. Because he was completely engaged in serving Krishna. Because he was completely busy in serving Krishna, the time passed so quickly that he didn't had any time for sense gratification also. So that is how we can control senses and sense gratificatory objects. Here, Srila Prabhupada says that a person cannot be affected by the sense gratificatory objects if he engages his senses in the service of the master of the senses, that is Rishikesha. Rishikesha means one who is the master of the senses. So these senses are attracted toward the sense object. But if we serve the senses if we serve our senses in the service of the master of the senses, then the sense object cannot attract us. It is not possible. So it is not sufficient to renounce. It is not sufficient to just stay away from the things. It is not sufficient. It may be helpful for some time, but it is not. One has to be fully engaged in serving Krishna. One has to be fully engaged in always worshipping and engaging himself in serving Krishna. Otherwise, a person will be afraid. So here it is said in this translation, on the other hand, other living entities, even yogis and philosophers, are disturbed and frightened simply by remembering the material objects that they have renounced. So it is said that even yogis and great philosophers, they are also disturbed simply by remembering the material objects which they have renounced. So generally, the yogis and philosophers are expected to be in the renounced order of life. But as we have seen, even such great yogis and great philosophers, those who have renounced everything of this material world, they still get affected by the sense objects. Why? Because they are not taking shelter of Krishna. So, how to do that? Now, the very important aspect is that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjun the same thing. Arjun wanted to give up everything and go into the forest, thinking that by staying in the forest, I will be relieved from my material, from my attachment to the desire for gaining the kingdom and everything. He was thinking that if I stay in the forest, I don't require to perform my dharma or my activities, and because of that, I will stay aloof from all worldly engagements. But Krishna is saying that it is not possible. Because it is your nature to perform kshatriya acts, even if you go into the forest, you will still find some way or other to find a quarrel there. Because your nature is kshatriya nature. And because it is your nature, you will naturally be engaged. You will be forced to be engaged by that nature. So what is the best way to purify our swabhava or nature? To engage our tendency, natural tendency in serving Krishna. Just like I remember in India where I was staying in the Govardhaniko village, there was this devotee whose mind is always after money. He joined Brahmachari ashram, but he was coming from a background of a businessman family, a typical Marwadi family, as you can say. So, even though he have given up everything, job, position, property, and everything, and try to become a brahmachari, a renounced person, but still, because of his nature, he was always thinking how I can do cost cutting, how I can benefit the temple by saving Krishna's energy. So, when the devotees saw his inherent tendency for earning money and saving money, they thought it is wise for him, let us make him the Govindas in charge. So in that way, it is he he was able to utilize his tendencies of taking care of money, saving money, doing cost cutting, and at the same time earning much profits. So that is how the spiritual master of or our senior authorities, understanding our nature, engages or details our tendency or propensity in serving the Supreme Lord. And slowly, slowly, because we are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord, that tendency is purified. That tendency gets its real situation in serving the Lord. So similarly, we may have certain habits, we may have certain nature. So it is not possible for us to give up that all of a sudden by renouncing those things. Not possible. We have to utilize it in serving Krishna, and by doing that, we will be able to purify that tendency, and slowly, slowly, by Krishna's arrangement, that tendency will get purified, and will become really detached from all those activities. So that is how we can control our senses. Again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one incident that comes about Hamsa avatar. As all of you know, among all the avatars of the Lord, there is one more avatar called Hamsa avatar. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that this Hamsa avatar appeared for one specific reason. It so happened that once Chatushkumar, they approached Lord Brahma because they were having one question to ask. And Brahma was not able to answer that question. He himself got confused. How should I answer this question? So internally he prayed, Brahma prayed to the Supreme Lord, kindly help me to reply this question. And the Supreme Lord appeared in the form of a Hamsa or a swan form. And the Supreme Lord in the form of a swan replied to Chatushkumara's question. And what was the question of Chatushkumara? The question was, Chatushkumara was asking, it is natural for the senses to get attracted towards sense objects. It is very natural. The senses are there, the sense objects are there. And it is so natural that the senses naturally get attracted to the sense object. And because since the senses are attracted toward the sense object, it becomes very difficult to focus on the goal of life, that is liberation from the material world. It is so difficult. So how is it possible that the senses, which are so naturally inclined towards sense object, can be able to serve, can be able to controlled by the practitioner, so that he will be able to transcend the material world? So in one sense they were asking that with these senses, how is it becomes so difficult to attain liberation? That was the main question of Chatushkumara. So Brahma, he was thinking, that's true, that senses are there, sense objects are there. It is quite natural that they will be attracted toward the sense object. How is it possible to avoid all these things and get liberated from this material entanglement? So since he was not able to answer it, Lord Hamsa, he came and said, it is possible if you engage your senses in serving master of senses. So the more you utilize your senses in serving master of the senses, the more it will be purified, and you will be able to liberate yourself from this material entanglement. Once I asked the same question when I was discussing about this episode of Hamsa Avatar. I asked many people in the audience, so what is your answer? Chatushkumar were asking this question to Brahma, and Brahma was not able to reply the answer. Can you answer it? And there were so many people who very easily answered it. And many people said, yes, it is so easy. And everybody said, by serving Krishna, we will be able to purify our senses. Even the newcomer in the bhakti process, he is able to answer this question, and here we see the Brahma is not able to answer it. I just replied that it is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada has given us this process of bhakti yoga in such a practical way, in such a day-to-day practical lifestyle way, even a newcomer in bhakti yoga is able to give this answer which even great philosophers and demigods were not able to answer it. Why? Because Prabhupada has given this knowledge in such a practical way. So that is the mercy of our parampara, that we are able to gain that highest philosophy in such an accessible way. Otherwise, previous to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though people used to practice bhakti yoga, but it was so confusing, it was so far a distant process to practice. Many people don't even know how to do that. That is how the situation is. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, we are able to understand this philosophy in such a simple way, in such a accessible way, and Srila Prabhupada made it so easy that it is practically applicable in our day-to-day life also. So that is their glory. So now the next question arises. Understanding and recognizing the source of fear. So, well, as a practicing devotees, it is true that we have to control our senses. It is true that we have to stay away from the sense object. But how to do that? So, sometimes we may get affected. Sometimes the devotees gets affected by the sensory desires. Just like many devotees, they have a specific desire before coming to Krishna consciousness. They were always eating junk foods on the streets. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, it has been instructed that no, we should not eat junk foods. We should always eat Krishna Prasad. So one is, for many years, a devotee may stay away from his material desires. And what is that material desire? To eat, for example, eating junk food. But after many years staying in Krishna consciousness, sometimes when he goes out, he is able to see, oh, the same thing. Immediately the memory comes. Oh, I used to eat this food, I used to eat at this place, this hotel, this restaurant, and it was so nice. Oh, why have I become Bhakta now? I have to give up all this enjoyment. And immediately that desire for enjoying comes up, and then he starts condemning himself, saying that how rascal I am, how foolish I am that I am remembering my past and thinking about enjoying those things. And he starts feeling guilty about those desires. And this thing naturally arises in the devotee's heart. And slowly, this guilt makes a person either to give up Krishna consciousness or to become a pretender. Either of the two happens. So, how to help that person then? It is to giving up Krishna consciousness is not the solution. And at the same time, to becoming a pretender by showing that I am not affected, I am a good sadhak devotee, but I am not affected. Such kind of pretension is not at all good for bhakti also. So how to do that? So it is said that one has to take shelter of Krishna. How one can take shelter of Krishna? By engaging the mind in Krishna consciousness. So as soon as a desire comes, as soon as a desire to enjoy sensory object comes, one has to immediately situate himself in Sattva Guna. Now the desire for sense gratification is a symptom of Rajogun and Tamogun. That is the symptom. The desire to enjoy. So what if one person has to do? A person has to immediately come to the level of sattva guna. Now, how to come to the level of sattva guna? A practical answer is, it is said that I have asked the same question to one of the senior devotee, and he said, immediately as soon as a desire for sense gratification creeps in your mind, immediately go and take bath. I said, how by taking bath will help a person? Because bathing process itself is an act of sattva guna, and it steadies and calms the mind. Just by taking bath, one becomes steady and his mind gets calm. And after taking bath, one should immediately take to the process of chanting. He should take the beads in his hand and start chanting. Hear about the Krishna. Forget about what is happening in the mind. Just hear the chanting. Meditate on his name. Remember Krishna's pastime. Or at least take book. If you are not ready to chant at that time, if you are feeling that you are not able to chant, then take one of the book which has pastimes about Krishna. Just like Krishna book we have, you just start reading that book. By reading the book, by taking shelter of Krishna's pastimes and his holy name, one is able to focus his mind on Krishna. Or he can also do one more thing, that he can immediately after taking bath, he can engage himself in doing kirtan for the Supreme Lord. He can come into a temple hall and start singing wonderful bhajans and kirtan for the Supreme Lord. Or other thing he can do is that he can start doing seva. Whatever seva is possible, start doing the seva. So by doing all this thing, one is easily able to give up the meditation on the sense gratification. Because the mind is supposed to be engaged in serving Krishna, either in chanting, either in hearing, either in reading Krishna's pastime, either in singing Krishna's kirtan, or either in serving the devotees. So these are the things by which we can engage our mind. And if we do that, it is possible to stay away from sense objects. So the mind which here it is said, a mind remembering Krishna is never afraid, but a mind remembering sense object is always afraid. Now what fear is there? Fear of losing Krishna consciousness, fear of falling from the position of practicing Krishna consciousness. That fear is always there in the heart of a devotee. And that fear can be removed by remembering Krishna. And how to remember Krishna? As I have previously described, one can be able to remember Krishna always. So one should always ask themselves, what I am thinking right now? So if the desire is about the sense object, certainly there will be fear in the heart. But if there is thought about Krishna, then certainly there will not be any fear in your heart. So fearlessness is a sign of spiritual progress. A person who is fearless, we can understand that he is actually advanced in spiritual life. So what is the definition of being fearless? Here in this verse, the Lord is described as fearless by giving some symptoms. One, that he is not contaminated. Second, he is not entangled. Third, he is not disturbed. And because of this, he is not afraid. So that is the sign of fearlessness. If you are not contaminated, now what is the meaning of contamination again here? Here the contamination means if you are not purposefully meditating on the sense object, that means you are free from contamination. But if you are purposefully contemplating on sense object, then certainly the mind is contaminated. Second, one should not be entangled. Now what is the meaning of being entangled? Here entangled means we are attached to certain lifestyle. So if a person is attached to certain things, then there will be fear in the heart. Now, let me give one example. What is the meaning of entanglement here? Sometimes devotee thinks, oh, if I sit at a place where there is no disturbance, then only I am able to chant Hare Krishna. Or if some person say, if I sit at in the temple hall at a specific place, then only I am able to chant properly. If a person says that, oh, if I get only this specific prasadam, then my mind is peaceful and then I am able to chant Hare Krishna. Or so there are so many things a devotee may be attached to. And if a person is attached to certain such kind of activities or such kind of things, naturally his practice will depend on certain things. So, attachment to specific needs, not needs, specific wants, then it creates an entanglement. So that's why we see that devotees aren't able to give up those attachment, and because of which they are fearful. They start thinking, oh, if this thing happen, how will I practice my bhakti? As if bhakti is dependent on those external things. No, bhakti is fully independent. It is not dependent on external situations. But we start thinking, oh, if I don't get job, oh, if I don't get enough money, oh, if I don't get proper food and nourishment to eat, then how will I be able to chant Hare Krishna properly? So that is how people start thinking. So if you are attached, that means you are entangled. And thirdly, you should not be disturbed. Not disturbed in the sense, again, the situation will not remain same always. It will change. Today you have a good job. You have a steady job. You have properly scheduled your time. But in future, the situation may change. You may get a job which is very demanding, very fluctuating, very unsteady. Then will you be able to chant properly at that time? So that is how we get disturbed in our sadhana also, because we are dependent on our external situations. Because we are dependent on the external situation, that's why a person is fearful. So 3 things: no contamination, not entangled, and not disturbed is a sign of being fearlessness. So if we practice this thing in our life, then certainly we will be able to give up our desire for sense gratification, and we will be easily able to remember Krishna always. So in conclusion, I would like to summarize what we have discussed. So our goal is not only to avoid sense gratification and not only to control senses, but to move the mind toward Krishna so deeply that the memory of material enjoyment loses its attraction. So our goal should not only to avoid sense gratification. Of course, we should avoid sense gratification, but that should not be the goal. That should be the helpful aspect. So one should avoid sense gratification, one should avoid controlling, one should control the senses, but more important is that move the mind towards Krishna. And if we do that, the material enjoyment loses its attraction and we can focus fully on Krishna. Hare Krishna. I hope there is no questions. There is one. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, in the middle of the class you mentioned if person engages in his tendency, whatever his nature, you gave an example, person who is coming from Marwari background is engaging his particular nature in the Krishna service so that he can be fully occupied or whatever. So we see in the Bhagavad Gita same thing. Arjuna's nature was Kshatriya. Still he was, when we are engaging our nature in particular, but we have particular nature when we are engaging in Krishna consciousness, Krishna service. Still Arjuna has give 5 reasons not to fight. Correct? He says that there is a fear of sinful reaction and indecision and cannot able to make a fight. So my question is that even though we know what is our nature, still if we are engaging that nature into Krishna consciousness, still we get a problem because of lust, greed, anger, these things. So I'm just understanding how much benefit is there when we are engaging in our nature in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna was a Kshatriya by birth. He know what is his duty. He know what he has to do. But still he was stuck in the middle of the war. So can you comment on that?
So, dovetailing the propensity in serving the Supreme Lord is called Karma Yoga. Okay. And what you said about Arjuna feeling afraid of is a chapter 1. So chapter 1 and chapter 3, there is a difference of one more chapter, chapter 2. That is identifying who am I. So yes, following our dharma, if not for the Supreme Lord, a person may start thinking that I may be entangled into sinful activity. But if the same person is thinking, oh, I am doing this activity for Krishna or for the Supreme Lord, certainly there is no question of sinful reaction, because Karma Yoga itself means that a person perform karma without any reaction. That is Karma Yoga. So, simple thing is that even a Kshatriya, if not utilizing his Kshatriya dharma for serving the Supreme Lord, then he will get entangled. Similarly, a Marwadi person, if he is not utilizing his skills of earning money in serving the Supreme Lord, he will get entangled. Whereas if the same Marwadi is using his skill in serving the Supreme Lord, then certainly he will be unaffected by any reaction. So that is how the difference we understand, that normal karma and karma yoga, there is a difference. But again, karma yoga and bhakti yoga are the 3 distinct things. Just performing dharmic activity is not guaranteed that you will be freed from sinful reaction. But then one may go into karma yoga by serving our propensities in the serving the Supreme Lord. That is freedom from sinful reaction. But still that is not enough. We have to practice bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga means serving the Lord as He desires, not serving the Lord as I like. That is the highest thing. Certainly we still have to come to that level. We are not on that level, but slowly we should know that is the standard we should reach. Presently we may be practicing, we are at the lower level, that is doing our karma as a practicing our nature. We have to rise to the level of karma yoga. But just staying on the level of karma yoga is not sufficient. We have to rise on the level of bhakti yoga also. So that is how we should progress ourselves. If not, then naturally we have to take repeated birth again and again in this world. Okay, bro? Fine. Hare Krishna. Oh, Mataji is having a question.
So, if a person is practicing bhakti yoga and is as this verse is saying, actually even feeling frightened, remembering those sense objects that have been given up. That seems very natural because one knows the danger of engaging one's senses with sense objects, that it'll pull one away from the focus on performing activity for Krishna. And then on the other hand, you also hear about regulated sense or engagement with sense objects. I don't know if it's exactly like that, but some regulated space for attending to what the senses require. So, so I suppose the question becomes, does that giving space to or regulating that interaction with sense objects, does it still, or does it still allow one to come to that point of actually being fearful, or is that fearfulness of those sense objects even in that regulated or making space for regulated interaction?
In any case, whether it is regulated or unregulated, it is still not expected from a devotee, because regulation is an allowance. It is not a recommendation. A person is allowed to perform sense gratification because Guru knows that he is not able to give up his sense gratification desire. So Guru allows, or Shastras or scriptures allows, but it's not recommended. There is a difference between allowing and recommending. So that's why in Vedic system there is a Varnashram dharma, where a person is not allowed, it is not recommended to involve himself into sense gratificatory objects. But still, the Varnashram dharma is made in such a way that even if such a person has a desire, he may utilize his desire in a regulated way, and slowly he may advance. But this advancement becomes very slow again. It does happens, no doubt, but it becomes very slow. So Prabhupada and our Vaishnava Acharyas has always said, recommended that if it is possible to give up the sense gratification altogether, then it is always best. It is just like whether a person perform sense gratification things within the limits of Vedic Varnashram, or a person who is giving up all sense gratificatory objects. Both are going to attain the supreme goal, because both of them are the right track. That is called as Pravritti Marga and Nivritti Marga. Nivritti Marga means giving up all kind of sense desire. And Pravritti Marga means we may have desire, but we may use it in a regulated way and still practice bhakti. So, both paths are there. But one path, which is where we have regulated allowance of enjoyment, that is very slow. It may take many lifetimes also. Whereas the other path, that is called as Nivritti Marg, where one is immediately gives up thinking that this is not going to help me at all, and fully focus himself in serving the Supreme Lord, that path is also there. And that path is very fast, but there is a danger. Just like on a highway, there is a highway, express highway, and there is something called as country roads, which is very curvy roads. So on a highway, if you want to reach very fast to your destination, highway is the best way. But there is a risk. If there is a small, if there is even a small focus is lost, for a small time also, such a huge accident can happen. And a person may either end up into hospital, or he may die. In our days, it is spiritual suicide. For a small fraction of amount also, the focus is lost, it is spiritual suicide. Whereas in a regulated path of sense gratification, the speed may be slow, and even if the accident happen in that path, one is not thrown out of the path. He will still, his truck will still continue on the path. So yes, there is advantage and disadvantage also. Advantage is that even though there are certain mistakes, even there is loss of focus, still he will not be lost. Whereas it will take time. Whereas other way, it will be very fast. But if small, even a simple deviation happen, he may be lost for many lives also. It is possible. So we have to choose on ourselves what path we have to chase. Both paths will take us to the Supreme Lord. Now it is up to us which path we would like to choose and how fast we have to go. It is up to us. Okay, Mataji? I hope so. You are satisfied. Maybe Subal Prabhu can answer it much more better. He will come and he will answer your question. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.